Alright, so got one, two, three, four fans going on. That's how hot it is. My hair is looking like shit. Anyway, so I also put on a shirt for this video because got the little tank top underneath. Yeah, I don't want to see all that. Anyway, so I couldn't wait for Shudder to put this on their service, and they've been promoting it like crazy, and I'm like, this looks fucking interesting and all that stuff. But like when the June, July, like calendar came out, nothing. July came out, nothing. We're like, when you gonna put this out? Like August, September? Like, come on, man. So instead, I rented it, which is, and when it comes on the fucking uh streaming service, I'm gonna watch it again. But so I'm talking about In a Violent Nature. It's this new kind of like slasher horror thing. Obviously I'm talking about Shudder, of course it's horror based. It's the new, like, killer whatever movie. And initially I was like, all right, I'll watch it, like mainly because you're like, okay, it's a new type of slasher thing, and whether it's good or not, like hopefully the kills are good and maybe the effects are decent, yada yada. Usually what I look at, because as I've said many times, current day horror is not that great. Like you've got like the elevated horror if you want to be that person on Letterbox, and that stuff's fine and all, but like, I'm the bitch who's like, give me the blood, give me the blood. Oh god, it's still early. Oh, I can't be metal screaming this early. Anyway, so I like the movie. I did like the movie a lot, and I'll go into spoilers, but I will say non-spoilers right now. It is very, like, the look of it is very familiar. I mean, just from the previews you already see it's a masked guy in the woods, blah blah blah. So you're already thinking like Friday the 13th, all that stuff, and it has the kind of vibes to it. But also, like, again, I do like this movie a lot. It is from the perspective of the killer, which I do like, and it's something I've said in a lot of my other reviews when I talk about like the additional like movies in a franchise kind of stuff. Whereas like it's always the first movie you care about, like the people per se, mainly the final girl kind of character. You're like, yeah, kill that guy, kill him. But then later, progressively, with the second, maybe, definitely starting at the third movie, when you get to the 7th, 11th, 12th movie, you're just rooting for the killer because you're like, who cares? Again, I've said this before, like Final Destination, like the Saw movies, you just want to see how these people die, And this kind of like cut all that kind of stuff where you're just like, you're following the killer and what he does and how he kind of the 2009 like Friday 13th remake kind of had a bit of that, where like there was a bit where you'd follow like the people being like, look at my tits, I'm drinking beer, we're fucking, and then there's like a few minutes where you're following Jason around, and then he's just like, he had the bag over the head thing, and then he finds the mask kind of shit, and you kind of like see him work a little. But you don't see that a lot, in these movies. Because it's usually just like, oh my god, we're partying, da-da-da. It's like, oh my god, we're partying, da-da-da. It's like boobs and hands. Like, what? Is that a killer? But I need to get this nut in, Ah! Again, I did like the perspective on that because, as horror fans, that's like what we want to see. We want to see... I need to put my hair back up. It is too hot. We want to see, like the killer. We want to know what makes him tick. We want to know like why the killer's the way he is. Like all that shit. So anyway, I don't know what else to say. The kills are great. There's one that's like, bitch. The kills are interesting. The killer's great. All that stuff. Anyway, I can't. Anyway, I'm gonna go into spoilers. Like 1, 2, 3 spoilers. Anyway, so the whole backstory is like some shit happened and there was like this guy named Johnny, and that's the killer named Johnny. And he's like the son of a not mine, or like son of a bitch, son of a person, and like they kill like the the workers around there. I'm like, what's the word I'm looking for? Again, it's too hot. They kill the workers, all that stuff, and like Johnny kind of exact revenge on the entire place. And the only way to like, and he can't die. You know, we all know that. Like with these characters, they can't die. And the only way to like, not really kill him, but like keep him away or like fortify a thing. Why did I do that gesture? Is like there's the locket of his mom, and if you put it by the fire watch thing, then he's able to be like buried underneath and like go to slumber, you know, like do not disturb kind of thing. Uh, I do love that like the locket is like so clean, you know, and it's just like hanging on like this broken piece of like wood on like the fire tower thing. And then like people go through the woods and they're like, hey, what's that? I'm gonna take it. Also, like that reminds it, like, first of all, no. If I somehow am in the woods, you know, and then I see like a piece of jewelry, I see anything, I would just be like, and I go away. It's like there's like that video where like there's that girl who was like, hey, I found this doll someone left in the middle of the woods, and she's like at home with it. She's like, what do you think it's about? And you're like, bitch, really? Have you not watched a horror film? And then there's like that great like response video where this like woman, she's like, take that back to Bomba Club. Like, yeah, it's like, woman, what are you doing? Like, it's like, oh, there's this doll in the middle of the woods. She's gonna take it home. It's probably nothing wrong with it. You know, it's a cute doll. Just take it home. Like, girl. Anyway, you're cursed forever, and everyone who knows you is cursed, so good luck to that. Your entire apartment complex is cursed, you know, good luck. Anyway, so the dudes, like, they, like, remove it because they're stupid dudes, and then you just start seeing, like, the ground, like, disturb, and then it's like, you know, all that stuff. So I need to stop doing this gesture. Anyway, so, he, you know, he comes alive and all that stuff, and what I do like is that you do see the killer unmasked. Like, most of the movie is just freaking forest ASMR, which is kind of like crunch, 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 shoom, 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 you know, of him walking, which is great. You know, because I do like that it is not just like regular slasher movies where it's like there's like the crazy, you know, theme song, you know, there's no like the Halloween thing, there's no like you know, you don't get that, you don't have, you know, like the Saw thing, and you're like, ah, you know, none of that. It's just like very like, you know, just atmospheric sounds, which I thought was great. You just follow like the back of the killer, and he's walking, you're just following with him like, hey man, where we going? Do you think there's like an ice cream store nearby? It's kind of warm, kind of hungry, want to cool down a little, you know. Like, and you do see him unmasked, and his face is kind of fucked up, and his eyes are all like freaking, you know, just blah, you know. And I do like that you get to see him kind of like get his like, you know, items together, you know, where he goes into the ranger station and takes like an old like firefighter like mask, and then like hooks, you know, with the chains, boots with the fur, all that stuff. You get to see him like with his implements, and then he finds like an axe because fuck it, right? You know, and I do like, you know, you're just following the killer, and it's great because then you like hear dialogue like often, and you hear it clearly, and it's not one of those things where like, you know, you like you hear something and it's supposed to be very important to the plot, but you only know what's being said because you have subtitles on. You ever experience that? The characters talk about stuff, and you just like watch this, like you see them in the background, and you just, when you're with the killer, so you're just with them in the foreground, just watching them like get closer to, you know, the people and all that stuff. And that was, I found that very interesting, and it's different. One in like the horror genre, and two in like the slasher subgenre, to like, you know, and there wasn't like insane quick cuts. Like the kills weren't just like where that. It wasn't like a lot of that. You know, I like that they didn't go for like the 2000s way of editing. I love that they weren't just like, Like I love that they also like because it's a slasher. They didn't go with like gratuitous nudity. They went with gratuitous violence, which I love. You know, usually my whole thing is always like a horror movie is just let's have a naked woman covered in blood, or my favorite thing is giallo. If tits covered in blood could scream, you know, just tits like ah, blood, ah, you know? And then it's got this because it's Italian. Anyways. So, like I said, I really liked it. The kills were really interesting. I like that you saw the killer go into like the water, you know what I mean? And he just walks in, kind of like Land of the Dead, where the zombies just like walk in the water. No bubbles, because obviously it's dead. And whenever it like does get incapacitated for a minute, like the camera is on the character for a while, and like no like breathing. The actor's just holding his fucking breath, and it's a long shot too. Like there's barely any cuts, you know. The actor's like breathing, or they do the thing where there's usually like a plate, where they put it over so then you could still breathe, but hopefully it doesn't move with your, stomach. There's like certain movie magic ways of doing it. You either are gonna be one of those people where you're like, I'm just gonna hold my breath because I can, or they put like a plate over you. Oh God, don't fall. So yeah, like I someone I follow on Letterboxd/Tumblr was like, they were like, oh my God, #progress, and I was like, #feminism, where the people who like are fucking or perceivably fucking, and dies first is like lesbians. We're like, progress, #feminism. They were just like, I thought we were going to do yoga, and she's like, yeah, we could. Oops. We're just gonna go in the water, but she wasn't like naked. She just like still had like her sports bra and stuff. And the other girl's like, oh, I'm dressed for yoga. I want to do yoga. She's like, okay, I'll see you later. I'm gonna go do yoga. And it's like, okay. And then the girl goes, the girl, it's like I can't speak. So the girl jumps in the water. Like I said, the killer goes in the water, and then you just see because you're still like back here. You're still back here watching the killer had gone in, and the girls are all the way at the end there. The one girl was like, I'm gonna go do yoga. She leaves, goes to yoga, and the other girl, she's like, I'm swimming, And then you just suddenly see her like gets pulled underneath. Then they switch the camera angles to the pier, and then it's like Jaws, where you just see her just like go under, splash, 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 and then you just see like her body like float to the top, like face down. And then on the opposite side of the pier, you just see the killer just like slowly walking up, which I was like, that's awesome. I love that it's like you don't have to see exactly how she died. I mean, she drowned, but you know what I mean? Like you don't have to see her like the whole fully struggling underneath. Maybe he cut her, but none of that. You're just like, bitch is dead. You know that. And then the yoga thing, that I'm wondering, like, was that that had to be like, that was a thought. That was a choice. That was amazing. So like I said, he had like the hooks with the chain and all that stuff, and the girl is like up like on a cliff because that's where people do yoga. I don't fucking know. And then she has her back, like she's facing like the scenery, her back, and she hears like leaves crunching and stuff. And she's like, oh my God, it took you long enough. All that stuff. She turns around, I was like, this big dude, and she's like, and then he goes, and then she turns. I love that, like, he just goes, sticks the freaking hook in her stomach. It comes out like hook, out her stomach. Then he pulls it, right? Like he pulls it a bit, and she's like, oh, all that stuff. Then he pushes it back out a little, hooks the hook on her head, pulls her. So then she's like, this is her body, right? This is her head, and then pulls her head, and then has her fucking almost Ouroboros herself. Like her head goes through the opening in her stomach, and I was just like, yeah, dude. I was sitting there, like mouth agape, but like with a smile. I was like, no way! I was like, yeah, and they're showing it. They're not doing the thing where we gotta cut away to like some birds flying, you know, that shit they normally do, or just to like, I mean, they do show the killer's face on like the mask, but they don't like, you know, you don't hear like blah, 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 and then like just see the face, hear the noise, and then the girl drops, and you're supposed to like, you go, oh, kind of stuff. No, they showed it. They were like, blood, boom, flip, blah, blah, blah. Oh my god, that was chef's kiss. That was such a good kill. So insanely violent. Because usually, you know, stuff like Michael Myers or Jason Voorhees, they're just like stab, stab, slice, slice, you know, all that stuff. Although there's like the first kill I forgot was like the chubbier guy with like the music player. Although I was like, is he using a Walkman? And they have established this is current times, you know, because they did the whole like don't cancel me kind of thing. And he took like a freaking hacksaw, like actually not to the neck. I think it was like to the mouth, and like, and that was very like Jason Voorhees and all that stuff. But yeah, I love that he took that guy's dead body and threw it against the glass case so he could get the implements. Which I'm like, you didn't, bro. You're strong as shit. You could have just went on the glass. Bless me, but you know, dramatics, you know. And then like, then there's like these two dudes, and he just like he freaking puts like a stick in the car, so like the horn goes off, and you see him like, and again you're following the killer, so you're just like in these tracking shots with the killer. And I love that they see like one dude is like sees him like out of the I almost said office, out of the cabin. They run out, they're like, hey man, what up, blah blah blah, and he like slices one dude in the leg, and then they did like this like overhead shot, where they're like the guys are trying to like crawl away and all that stuff, and the killer just like, you know, just somber walks, you know, just saunters over and just like you know. And then the last thing that's left is the one girl with the curly hair, and then the I guess the boyfriend, or yeah, because he's the one who gave her the necklace, you know. And there's a part where like it was kind of where they threw the keys, and the killer Johnny like grabs the keys, and there's a car on it, and he's holding it like a toy car. He sits down, takes off his mask, leans against a tree, and he's just like, it's a toy car, it's a toy car. And it was kind of like really sad, you know, because it's like, you know, like it's kind of like with Jason Voorhees, where it's like he doesn't get to enjoy like being a kid. He just end up being like this big fuck off killer kind of thing. Like I said, a lot of Jason Voorhees vibes, which is why I loved it so much. It's like Friday the 13th without it. Like it's not necessarily the whole like, hey, can I copy your homework? It's okay, just change a couple of things, because they also like, you know, they didn't do it to such a T, you know, where it was like, wow, this is blatant. It's like, okay, you could tell there was a lot of inspiration. He was the main one, but there's also other inspiration from other slasher movies. But yeah, so so the kills were great, and then in the end, when the one girl gets away and she's got like the fucking bleeding like ankle and all this stuff, and the woman who picks her up is like, I think it was Friday 13th 3, 2, but she played Vicky. You know, not really full circle, but you get what I mean. Like, okay, and so she picks her up, and they're driving for a while, and of course, you know, when you watch a lot of these movies, you think either is she really an actual Good Samaritan? Well, it's kind of like a semi-known person. If you know, you know kind of thing. You know, is it one of those things like House of Thousand Corpses where it's like, oh, it's not. It's a person who's part of it. They freaking pick them up, and then it's like, you're going to hell. And then obviously they're driving for a while. Obviously they're in the woods, they're driving. So then you're thinking, have they been driving in a circle? Because the girl is kind of like losing blood, all that stuff. And then the end where the woman is like, okay, she's starting to pass out, and she's like, all right, I'm gonna get you to the hospital, but I need to like tie off your foot so you don't bleed out in the car. And then the girl's like, no, please don't. You know, like, he's out there, he's got to be somewhere. The woman's like, let me get this, and then we will get to the hospital. And then the girl is just sitting, like, looking outside, and there's just, like, this long shot of, like, the woods. And I just kept looking. I was like, all right, they're either going to piss me off and give me a Blumhouse ending with a, like, jump scare. And I'm, like, looking around the screen. I'm like, all right, what's going to happen? Or they're like, or suddenly, like, there'll be some kind of movement, and you know the killer's still there. You'll see the killer like afar, Like, or it'll do the thing which it actually did, which was, you know, it just kind of like, it just kind of gives you that tension, but then cuts it, you know, which that's what they did. And I kind of, you know, like you kind of find yourself going like, oh, kind of thing, you know, where you're like, okay, I'm fine with that because I kind of rather, because again, the other options was horrible jump scare or the killer's still there, looky, looky. And I kind of like the idea that you're like, because you're in the perspective of that woman, that, you know, she's looking out there being like, he could be out there, he could be out there, you know, kind of thing. And it's like, maybe he is, maybe he isn't. And then the movie ends with showing like, because the girl, when the killer was killing like her boyfriend, which he was going ham, he like busted up his face and just wouldn't stop. Like everyone else, like he would just be like, cool, they're dead. And then, but this one, like he was like hitting his face, and he was just like, he just like kept going. He was just like, not gonna stop. I'm gonna get, you know. So the girl was just like watching him, and then she just like puts like, because they were gonna set a trap and do all this stuff, but instead, you know, she just like puts the stuff down, even puts like the locket around like one of the, I think the gas can or something, which is smart because it's like, you know how many times in this movie where someone's given an item and they're like, but Billy gave it to me, I don't want it. It's like, he found it in the middle of the woods, Stephanie, what the hell? She was just like, no, I'm leaving, you know, which is probably why he didn't go after her, you know, because she didn't have the item, you know. And then when you see the movie end, you see that the necklace is no longer where she left her items. So it's like he probably like finished killing the guy, looked and was like, oh, hey, there's the necklace, took it, and either fucked off or, you know, like just fucked off and just like, anyway, tra la la, I'm in the woods kind of thing. You know, like here I have the toy car, you know, keychain, or I don't know, somehow just having it, he just like went back and just underground. Who knows? Open ended kind of thing, you know. So I enjoyed it a lot. Like the story is kind of like, oh yeah, you kind of heard it before, but it's like the kills were insane. I like that the characters were like not as dumb. You know what I mean? I like that the regular people characters weren't as dumb. They really were just like, hey, what the hell? You know, like it wasn't you know, obviously they had to put in the whole like, oh my god, we're gonna fuck, but like people are just, it's, we're in the minority, there's people that are miles away, like they're gonna do that, so it's like fine. Although I just thought it was so funny where it was just like, I'm gonna do yoga, you know, that's a crazy yoga pose. Could you imagine that? You go to like yoga and Pilates, especially if you're on that weird like Pilates machine, and they're like, okay, we're gonna do a violent nature. What? You know, it's just like, I'm dying. Anyway, so that was In a Violent Nature. Like I said, I really enjoyed it.